All right, let's talk about the Browns winners and losers coming out of their week 5 performance in London. Unlike the week prior, where I thought there was no winning really going on other than Quincy, I did see some decent things from the Browns this week. On the offensive side of the ball, too, I thought there was a notable improvement of play. Not the improvement that was necessary to win the game, mind you, but if we're judging where they were the last couple of weeks to where they got to now, I think there is some things to take notice of, and some losers this week. So first thing I'm going to put in the winners category is Dillon Gabriel. I thought Dillon did about what you wanted a rookie quarterback in his situation to do, right? I was concerned, and I have to be upfront about this, right? I was concerned that he would look bad against the Vikings because the Vikings have Brian Flores. They have multiple types of sim pressure that they can run at them. They're a relatively healthy defense as well. This game's on the road. Well, not on the road, but it's overseas. It just felt like a recipe for a welcome to the NFL moment for a young quarterback. And I did not want that to be how he tries to get his footing in the NFL. What we saw this week, while it wasn't good enough to win with, was a solid footing for a rookie quarterback in the NFL, right? Like, it wasn't the doomsday scenario. I don't think he developed a ton of bad habits or had to get used to a ton of bad things happening to him. And then when Brian Flores did throw him the sim pressures, it didn't seem like he was confused as much as I anticipated a rookie quarterback being confused. I thought he handled those challenges well. His accuracy is hit or miss at times. Like, sometimes Dillon Gabriel is throwing the ball incredibly accurate with incredible zip, and sometimes the ball is not coming off his hand hot, and it looks like it's a struggle for it to get out of bounds, or it's missing high, or you're worried that it's going to be intercepted because it got tipped, right? There's still some things you want to clean up. I think with Dillon, also another thing that I noticed was the uptick in procedural penalties in this game. And I know some people are going to give that on to the coaching staff. I tend to think that has a lot to do with the quarterback, because the quarterback is the guy who does the final check, right, to make sure that everybody is where they need to be. Like, he's the final person who has a say in getting somebody in the right place, right? Kevin can't run onto the field and tell, or Tommy can't run onto the field and tell players to not cover this or make sure you're on the line here or no motion here. That's up to the quarterback. And we actually saw how Joe Flacco handles that. And that was one of the few things that Joe was doing well when he was quarterback, was we were avoiding a lot of these illegal procedure penalties. That's important to note because the Browns run a ton of motion pre-snap, so they're more than susceptible to getting pre-snap penalties. You saw an uptick in it, and it did hurt this team, especially late in the game, the pre-snap stuff. So, there's stuff that he needs to still get a better grasp on, right? Thought the procedural penalties, avoiding those, knowing when you should check somebody in or check somebody to a motion or not, checking in and out of stuff. I thought he did a good job with, like, the mental part of the game. I thought he did a good job with. I just think that there were some things he could have been more thorough about with his pre-snap checklist that could have saved the Browns some stress here with penalties, right? So, yeah, that is something to consider with Dillon that he needs to improve. It's also worth considering that quarterback progress is not linear. While I would hope that he uses this as a solid foundation to build onto something better, it's very possible that he plays next week and, he learns a couple of lessons, right? That's the life of having a young quarterback. It's going to be relatively erratic. I mean, look at Jackson Dart. Last week, everybody who was a Jackson Dart draft lover, right? They were doing their whole, victory lap and dunking on people and pulling out old tweets because Jackson Dart beat the Los Angeles Chargers. I had people even telling me, oh, this is why the Browns should absolutely bench your quarterback, because Jackson Dart beat the Chargers. And then this week, Jackson Dart looks awful against the Saints, a team that is not as difficult to beat as the Chargers. Progress isn't linear, and another thing to remember is that, how your team plays, right? Performance level is dynamic in the NFL. It's not static. Just because you play great on defense in week 3, in week 2, in week 1 does not guarantee that you're going to have a great defensive performance in week 4. So, I'm going to be cautious with Dylan and try to be understanding of all the ebbs and flows of a rookie quarterback, right? Understanding that also the Browns aren't in a situation where the expectations for this year are to win a championship, right? Like if this were last year and the expectations were win championship, I'd be a lot more quick to judgment about stuff like the quarterback position. But since that is not the goal, and the Browns' goal is more than likely, let's try to be over 500, maybe sneak into the playoffs if we can. This kind of, they're playing this season by ear. There's not really a lot of high expectations when it comes to winning this year. I still think they got to win. We'll talk about that later on in this video, but the expectations just aren't there for them. So yeah, with Dylan, I thought you saw everything that you wanted to see out of him. Still need to see him be able to attack downfield with more consistency. He did it a little bit at the end of the game when they were giving him some deep throws, but he was 1 for 10 on 10+ yard throws. So that is a bit of a concern. Like, okay, can he stretch the ball downfield? It's the one thing we haven't seen him really do consistently in Cleveland. So, and that's a big question about him pre-draft. Like, does he have the arm strength to stretch a defense? It was kind of one of those judgment call things that was on his tape, and, different people answer differently with that. So still got to see that, right? Not going to sit here and be like, oh, we found our quarterback, or, even say, oh, we found somebody who could be fine for now. He had a fine start to his career. I'm not really going to get too carried away about it either way, but I'm going by what my expectations were for him before the game, which is, hey, don't turn the ball over, get the Browns a chance to win in the last 2 minutes. That's all I want from the quarterback position this week. And I got that from the quarterback position this week. So that being said, I can't leave him out the winners category just because we didn't win the game. So there's that. Obviously, you want Dylan to do more. You want Dylan to get the first down to end the game, and you want the offense to be able to end the game. But clearly didn't happen in this one. But still, you got to look at the whole game overall and be pretty pleased with what you saw from him, given that, like, hey, not getting the first down, that does suck, but if he would have turned the ball over, that would have been even worse and more concerning that the problems that they have on offense aren't going to go away anytime soon, where now you feel like you got a solid base that you can build off of and hopefully get to a much better place by the end of the season. My other winner is obvious. He's almost a staple at this winners table, is Quincy Judkins. Fantastic today. Unfortunately, the Browns do not have another playmaker on offense that can sufficiently take the attention away from Quincy, which is why I thought he didn't do well in the fourth quarter of this game. And since the Browns are so one-dimensional, it really took the run game away late in this game. But I think Quincy showed that he is a feature back in the NFL. First 100-yard plus game for him. I imagine this is the first 100+ yard game for a Browns running back since maybe the Colts game in 2023, where Jerome Ford broke a couple big ones off. Maybe I think, did Jerome Ford get over 100 in the Chiefs game last year? Somebody correct me on that, but it's been a while since we've had a running back go over 100. He does the honors. Those are my two winners: Dylan Gabriel, Quincy Judkins. You feel good about what those two did relative to what your expectations are for those players. Now let's talk about the losers. But before I do, I want to talk about my sponsor, Sleeper. Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required. And also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code WORSTTAKE. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus, first-time users also receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper. All right, first loser up today, Judy. Disappointing start to the season, no less. Quincy Judkins should not be the only playmaker on offense. We at least got to see David Njoku today, so that kept them out the loser pile, right? The Browns used their tight ends to score touchdowns today, so I'm going to leave them alone. But Jerry Judy, not only is he not making plays, not only is he not being productive, he's actively a part of the problem on offense right now, which is not what you want from somebody that you have the expectations of Jerry Judy. And it kind of like reins me back to the reality of Jerry Judy as a player, right? And when a player has a breakout year, you kind of hope that all the bad habits that player has, all the things that come with that player are just going to be gone and they're going to be this new guy. But the reality is that, Jerry Judy comes with certain downsides, and it's why Jerry Judy was available for the Browns to trade. It's why the Browns were able to get him under contract for such an under market value deal. And it's because Jerry Judy has downsides. And one of those downsides is not the most consistent player in the world, tends to be streaky and doesn't have consistent hands. There's going to be some plays that Jerry Judy makes hopefully later in the season that he's going to demonstrate an incredible ability to catch the football. But right now we're watching Jerry Judy drop the ball a ton, not be the playmaker they need him to be on offense. And sometimes it's not even like they're asking him to be a playmaker. They're just asking him to make the plays that come to him, and he's not doing it. Again, I understand he's a streaky player and he's very likely to get a hot run of production in a couple of weeks and get going. But the problem with that is that the Browns need Jerry Judy right now, and it's why the Browns, if they can get somebody who they feel like can be a true number one, will always pursue getting a true number one, because they can't really rely on Jerry Judy like that, right? And I think that's the big issue with Jerry Judy. When you have Jerry Judy and he's hot and you can go to him, he's awesome, right? But when you're relying on Jerry Judy, you start to notice how inconsistent he is, and it starts to have a negative effect on your ability to win football games. So Jerry Judy, put him in the loser category. It's been a rough month for him, and it didn't get any better today. His start to October did not get better. I'm going to put the Browns defensive line mainly also, I'm going to focus on Myles Garrett in this conversation, but I want to address a few things and a few talking points that I'm seeing right now, because I get where they're coming from and I don't think they're without merit, but I also think that people are just fundamentally wrong when they say it or talk about it like this. The Browns defense on Sunday was not good, right? The Browns got a couple of turnovers, yes, but they gave up 3 drives, 3 touchdowns in that game, without giving up a short field in the game, right? We talked about it a couple of weeks ago with the Detroit game, where it was they gave up a bunch of points, but I'm not that concerned because so many of those points Detroit got were on shortened drives, right? So the offense was heavily aided to put those points up against the Browns defense. This week you gave up 21 points, which is certainly not as much as you gave up against Baltimore, and it's certainly not as much as you gave up against Detroit. So you would think that I'm more happy with this defensive performance than I am with those. But the context around that defensive performance makes me much more concerned about what happened today than what happened against Baltimore or what happened against the Lions. Because one, the Browns gave up all those points, but most of those points were because special teams errors and offensive interceptions. Well, you had none of that, right? I think special teams, as shaky as they've been all season, did win the battle of field position throughout the game. And I thought that the Browns offense, well, not even thought, this is just a fact. The Browns offense didn't turn the ball over and also aided to putting the defense in good positions to be successful, and they still weren't successful, right? I think 3 of the scoring drives that the Vikings had were from negative field position when it comes to where the touchback is, right? They think that every drive started at the 20 or lower, and the Browns allowed them to march downfield. I get it that the offense could have done more, and the offense had all fourth quarter to get a couple of first downs and win the game. And if you just want to look at it through that context, you can just blame this game on the offense and absolve the defense. But I can't tell you, I can't look you straight in the eye and tell you that this defense lived up to expectations, and that they weren't a disappointment, because straight up they were a disappointment in this game. I thought Jim Schwartz had a bad game, and we'll talk about him in just a second. And I thought the defensive line, this was an embarrassing performance for a defensive line of their caliber, because on top of all the things I discussed earlier about giving up the 21 points and why I think it's worse than what you did against Detroit and Baltimore. You're playing Detroit and Baltimore, right? Lamar Jackson, not Josh Allen. Could you imagine? Jared Goff, right? Like, you're playing two of the better teams in football, at least at the time that you played them. And if you're going to give up some points to those guys, I'm not really going to be that concerned, because those guys don't pop up every week, or those kind of teams don't pop up every week. Giving up 21 points in the way that you gave up 21 points versus the Minnesota Vikings is just unacceptable for this defense. Again, it's not a horrific performance. I don't want to make it seem like they were just like a leaky hole on defense, but it's unacceptable for a defense of this quality. And I'm seeing a lot of people just kind of like hand wave that as like, well, the offense should have done more. But I think it's the defense owns the responsibility, because they're the better unit on the team, and that means that they bear more responsibility over the result of the game based on how they perform. And I don't care how it is that the Browns defense got put back on the field at the end of this game, and it wasn't by good circumstance. Obviously, the Browns offense was pathetic in the fourth quarter. Nobody's going to debate that with you. But I think another element that people shouldn't debate is that the defense, regardless of why they're on the field in that situation, absolutely cannot get walked downfield in 3 minutes and 43 seconds by Carson Wentz, 3 backup offensive linemen in the Minnesota Vikings. Like, it just cannot happen. That's not something an elite defense allows to happen. The Browns defensive line just did not get pressure on him at all. I feel like they came into this game underestimating the difficulty of the task and not really taking it serious. I think they thought they were going to wake up, roll out of bed, and dominate. That's not what happened. So the defensive line, you got to put them in a loser category, because, could other things have gone right for the Browns to win this game? Sure. But if you get the performance that we're accustomed to from this defensive line throughout this game, I think the Browns are able to win this game, even with the errors on offense in the fourth quarter. And that's kind of what you expect, right? I know I was talking to Kobe about this, and he was like, you just can't expect the defense to keep bailing out the offense. But I'm like, that's the whole point of how this team is built, is that the defense is going to have to bail out the offense, because we knew the offense wasn't going to be good coming into the season. That was part of the design of the team, is that, hey, the offense there's only so much we could do. We need more talent. We need to draft guys. They drafted a bunch of guys on the offense side of the ball. They're all rookies. They're playing right now. They're developing, but it's going to take some time to get there. So, you're just going to live with the results you get on offense. But defense was supposed to be where the money was made, and, they haven't really made their money this week. And I don't think last week was a particularly good performance. Myles Garrett having his lowest pressure percentage of the season in this game is an embarrassment for Myles Garrett. He should be embarrassed of this. I think this defensive line should be embarrassed of how they play. And look, I get it. People don't want to blame the defense, because that's the one thing on the team that we know is good. But let's be real about it. They bear more expectation on how things go, because they're good enough to make more of a difference than the offense is. The offense is starting a rookie quarterback. The offense is throwing the rookies all over the place. Rookie wide receiver, rookie tight end, rookie running backs, both of them, right? Like, the offense is the offense, and the offense ain't expected to be that good right now. But the defense, they're supposed to hold it down. Under no circumstances can you give up those points, and they got to take responsibility over it. Whether people think it's fair or not, whether people think the equitable thing is for both sides to take, I need the defense to take ownership of this loss this week, because they're supposed to be the side of the ball that does better. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you're a kid and you and your younger brother get in trouble or something, like my older brother, right? I got an older brother. So if I got in trouble and my older brother was there while I got in trouble, I'm not going to be in as much trouble or as punishment as my older brother's going to be, even though I'm the one who made the mistake, because my brother's supposed to be there to make sure that I don't do that, right? Like, he bears more responsibility because he's the one that can do more because he's older. Like, that's kind of how it works with the Browns defense. The Browns offense, that's a little brother right now. We all know it. They're not that good right now. Browns defense, that's supposed to be big bro. Big bro lets his game fall. That's going to be on them. I need them to take responsibility of this, right? I don't want to see pointing fingers this week in practice. I want to see them take responsibility. Like Denzel Ward at his press conference, where he said it was absolutely unacceptable that they got that touchdown at the end of the game and it's my fault. Like that. That's the kind of energy that we need from this team, right? I need Myles Garrett to, be like, hey, it's unacceptable that I didn't put an imprint on that game at the end of it. It's unacceptable. I need them to do that. I've seen too many people just like allowing that to slide, that the identity of this team did nothing in the fourth quarter to win this game because the offense didn't do anything. And it's like, the offense sucks. We're not going to be surprised when the offense sucks. We're not going to be surprised when the offense because we told ourselves at the beginning of the season, and the Browns told us, hey, the offense might suck this year. It is what it is, right? But this defense is supposed to be elite. They got to step up. They got to make the play. Do you want Jerry Judy to step up? Yeah. Do you want David Njoku to step up? Do you want Dylan Gabriel to get a first down? Yes. Obviously, yes. But let's be real here. We got higher expectations for the Browns defense. We got higher expectations for Myles Garrett than every soul on that offense. And when that person lets you down, that's a bigger deal. So, yeah, the defensive line, not great. They're in the loser category. The Jim Schwartz, not great. He's in the loser category. Why are we playing soft cover 2 in that scenario, right? Why are we playing zone in that scenario? Why aren't we going back to fundamentals, right? I understand not wanting to blitz, and I wouldn't advise that they blitz, but like, why were these guys so sleepy at the beginning of this game? Why was Greg Newsome covering Justin Jefferson? Why was Miles Harden covering Justin Jefferson? Like, what was the game plan for this week other than we think we're going to be so dominant on the defensive line, literally nothing else that we do matters? And I think Jim Schwartz got a little lazy. I think the team followed Jim Schwartz's lead, if I'm being honest. I think the team followed, the defense at least followed Jim Schwartz's lead, because I think he went into this with this game plan thinking, hey, it's going to be sweet. Like, it's going to be sweet. They got 3 offensive linemen out. We're going to attack them. We're going to get pressure with our 4. We're going to do some basic shit in the back end, and that's going to mess them up because they're not going to be able to hold the ball longer. And then they couldn't get pressure, and the whole game plan fell apart. Not good. Not good. That is also not taking Kevin Stefanski off the hook. He's in the loser category here, too. One, the brother has just lost a lot of games in the last calendar year, right? It's not a good look for Kevin. And look, I like Kevin. I think if Kevin were fired here, he'd pop up somewhere else. He'd be a head coach, and he'd be a good head coach. And we'd be sitting here wondering why we ever fired him in the first place, right? It'd be Baker Mayfield, or like we get rid of Baker Mayfield. It makes sense at the time. And then 2 years later, you're watching another team have him, and it's like, oh, yeah, well, maybe we should have went through some things or not blamed everything on him. Like, right, there's a lot of potential for hindsight here. But with Kevin, he's got to bring back more creativity to this offense between him and Tommy Rees, right? Put them both on the loser list. The lack of creativity, I think, is the bigger issue here. I know people are going to get on Kevin for the play calling in this game. I don't think the play calling was the reason they lost this game. I know people are going to be mad at me about that, but I really just don't believe that was one of the main reasons they lost this game. I don't think that the timeouts that they took, the game management at the end of this game was that bad. I know some people don't like the idea of using your timeouts on defense and then not having timeouts when you're on offense. I don't mind the idea or the philosophy there. Like, I think that if you're betting on your defense to be elite and they get to a third down, you should use your timeouts there so you can potentially force a field goal and get the ball back with what would be if they made a field goal there. The Browns used their final timeout on the 3rd and 6. So if they made a field goal there with about 1:03 left, you get the ball back with the tie game with about 40 seconds left, which still gives you time to go downfield and maybe be able to kick a field goal, even if you don't have any timeouts, because you can spike the ball, you can get the ball out of bounds, things like there are other ways when you have the ball to stop the clock. I didn't mind that choice. I understood why he did it, but when the defense didn't hold their end of the bargain, then yeah, everybody's going to look like an asshole in hindsight because you made a bet that the defense was going to be able to get you guys off the field, and the defense didn't do it. The defense allowed a first down. So that's tough, right? That's where they're at. That's tough. So people are going to look at that and blame Kevin on that. I don't really have as much as an issue as the rest of the internet does on that. Maybe I'm wrong on that, right? Maybe the rest of the internet is right, but that's kind of where I'm at. But those are the losers for this game. We got Jerry Judy, the Browns defensive line, Jim Schwartz, Kevin Stefanski. I didn't put anybody on the O-line here because, one, KT Leviston, he's probably going to be replaced soon, but he was about as good as you can expect KT Leviston to be in. He's just a Band-Aid. He's not very good. The expectations are very low for him. You can throw him in the loser category. I just didn't feel like it because I didn't want to spend like 3 minutes shitting on this guy who shouldn't even be in there playing in the first place. Who else could be in the loser category? David Njoku? Nah, David was fine in this game. Those are the players that stood out to me that I felt like needed to be, or the parts of the team that stood out to me that I thought needed to be in the loser category. But y'all let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.